go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Hemrick.
Here.
McFetrich.
Yes.
Neville.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Redmeister.
Here.
Smock.
Here.
Any public comments on the agenda items? This is kind of where you would be, Scott, but if you want to wait till we get down to talk about your resolution, you can go ahead and talk now, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll hand out my stuff now. Give you guys a chance to look it over.
Normally don't at the committee meeting, but we can start, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm kind of slow, so do what you want to do. Well, what's happening?
Not too much, how you doing?
What you doing? I guess just throw it on here. You want me to talk now?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and talk now, and then if anyone has any questions for you when we get to the other part of the agenda,
Okay. You got me limited to like 2 minutes. or
you can
so.
take as long as you want, Scott, it's fine.
All right, the way as it appears on the ballot is on this side, on the right-hand side. And then just going down the facts on the front side. It's the only stained glass dome of its kind, the Oculus in the top center above the 3rd floor. It's the flagship building of the historical district around Lincoln Square, which encompasses about 80 buildings all around the square there. And it's one of the largest domes for a county courthouse in the state. You know, it's got the old clock. What else? Then kind of going down to the bottom 3 there, the historical murals around the, right next to the dome on the top 3rd floor. I think it's got Elkhart Hill, our courthouse, Postville Courthouse, and then something else. Yeah, and then on the outer dome, that's actually copper, but in my lifetime, it's always been coated with a fiberglass coating, so we've never really seen what it looks like, and that's part of the restoration. And it's the second most architecturally significant courthouse in Illinois. So, that's kind of the ballot part is the nuts and bolts. I believe I mentioned before, Bill Walters is our project manager that's written out the building specs that we would send out to the different general contractors. Other projects that he's done have been the Indiana State Courthouse. That would be the closest, most significant one. And some federal libraries. One would be Oxford. And the referendum that's on the ballot is specific just to the courthouse. It's capped at 50 cents for every $100 of tangible personal property, and it's also capped to a maximum of 20 years. We have the project broken down into phases, so it can be cost controlled along the way. Those are the main points that I have.
Will the tax be going to anything else besides the restoration of the courthouse?
What other communities have passed such a resolution?
Right now, Lincoln is, I think they passed it this last week. I don't know about Hartsburg. Atlanta is in the middle of it. In fact, they're having a meeting similar to this tonight with Bill Walters, the project manager. That's and the reason he's up there is because he's worked the closest with our building and grounds committee leader, committee chair, who's from Atlanta, Dave Blankenship, and he's a general contractor as well. So they had a meeting last night as well. It was well attended, couple dozen people who had good questions and were excited about it. And it is a tax, yes, there's no dodging that, but it's money going towards something that we already own. This is owned by the citizens of Logan County. So it's going, the tax is going directly to something equitable. If we pass it. And, you know, the question was brought up, well, if we don't pass it, what would the county board do? What is the plan B? And I approached it. I didn't want to be negative about it and go towards a plan B. What I wanted to do was be positive about it and explain that this is the best idea that we've come up with as a board as to how to fund this and to how to set it up for future generations. And that if any of you guys were in the county board's position, you would do the same thing. You would go through the same process, come to the same decision.
Any questions for Scott?
They're probably in agreement that this will give the building much more life, term of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is the necessary things first, which is the dome, the HVAC, controlling the environment, and then the other things are the lighting, where we upgrade it to LEDs, probably put some in the clock faces, and use it as a tourist attraction. People do. They get a point to stop and pull off Route 66 and take a look at it.
What's the total project?
It's estimated, if everything was done on its own, without it being done together, all as one project, it's estimated between $7.5 and $8 million.
And what's the projected income from this tax?
The projected income from this tax, you guys asked that when I spoke to you last week. I think it was annually $900,000. And I asked Dave if he remembers that same number. He said that's what he remembers as well. But I don't have any sources back.
Did you say 900,000?
Yeah,
And how much was the project cost? 9 to 10 million?
yeah. Well, under 9 million.
Under 9 million. So we're gonna 20 years. Is that what you said it's capped at?
That's the maximum.
Right, and then it says it can be terminated.
Yeah. And if,
So can we trust you to terminate when you hit 9 million?
yes, I believe so. I don't plan on, I also believe in term limits, and I don't plan on serving 9 to 12 more consecutive years.
Well, it just goes that, you're asked for 20 years
you're
and
right.
900,000, the math doesn't.
You're right. When
Why
we-
after asking for 10 years, why conceivably, so.
No, that's a fair question. We didn't think of that math at the time
Mhm.
because we were more focused on, we had 4 choices of referendum wording. And it was the referendum wording that we had the last 2 elections, then that similar wording with its own sunset clause of 20 years. Then we had this new wording for, where it be public facilities specific for the courthouse without any sunset. And then we had it with the sunset. So
That's where it ended up, so.
that's where it ended up. You wanna hear the funny part?
Please share.
It's really not that funny. But there was a motion made for one of the other 4 wordings that we didn't choose. And I said, I don't like that, I like the one we have that we actually went with, I'm gonna vote no. So I voted no. All the other 11 voted yes. We had a special meeting for that, so it cost the county like a little under $1,000. And then the next month, well, we had to have a motion for a hasty decision, and we went back, and we remade the motion, and we went with the one that I.
You're just one member of the board, so, yeah,
That's right. You got it, Timmy.
so. You know, it's just that I have a hard time voting for more taxes in this town after we did the school. And, you know,
It's not
that's
fun.
looking at $200, so I'm having a hard time trying to justify this at the end of the day, so.
Yeah, I'm not gonna stand up here and tell you taxes are fun. I mean, they're not. But this is the only tax I can remember where it has a sunset clause or a cap, you know. And that's,
Our business district tax has a cap, I believe it's 20 years.
Right.
and,
And I think that's like legal, that's the legally allowed by the state.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like the TIF, there's a statutory sunset,
Yes.
so.
And even we are trying to extend that.
Yes.
Given the historical significance of this building, are there any other state grants or anything else that you guys are applying for to try and?
absolutely, and that was discussed last night as well, but you can't, the state's not gonna give you money until they see that we have our own skin in the game first. So, that's what this, referendum is, to show them that. And we have it, Tim Butler is our state representative. If anybody doesn't know him, he'll be here Friday night, right?
Saturday.
Saturday night. He'll be bartending with, Matt over at the Lucky Locker, good guy. He's visited, the project, the potential project a couple times. We've reached out to Darren LaHood, who I don't think he's been there firsthand, but it's on his radar, and then our state senator as well, so. And having Mr. Walters, with the experience that he has with projects like this, that brings a lot of credibility to the table when we do go to ask for state funding.
So you're proposing this tax that will basically double the proposed budget of the project to show the state that you have skin in the game to do the work, so they'll give you more grant money? Or
I know it's not so much as, you know, the county can't give a green light until they know that they're gonna have the funds secured. And the state's not gonna give them any money until they at least have a green light that they're gonna actually do it. I mean, that's the way I can describe it. Am I right there, or,
You're not wrong,
right?
and to your question, Mr. Smock, it's taken the board a long time to get to this point. Like I said, this time last year was when we had, with the thaw, was when we had pieces of plaster falling from the bottom part of the dome through the ceiling in the third floor courtroom, which I think is the second largest county courtroom in the state. I don't know if that's on the list or not. But yeah, so since that time, we've done a lot to get Mr. Walters to come here. He's got a burning interest in this project as well. Usually, it's $5,000 for him just to show up and take a look at it, but we talked him into coming down from when he was up at Rockford for free. And I think you guys asked last time if it's gonna be local contractors, or maybe it was asked, I spoke with the Hilltop Men's Club last week, and Matt was present. Yeah, and they try to use local contractors as much as possible, local materials and local material vendors as much as possible.
Do they have an estimated project timeline?
18 months.
18 months.
And that's where we're gonna, you asked, you know, what it would be. That's a budgetary number if everything was done separately. With everything being done together, there's gonna be, it would be a large amount of scaffolding going up around the dome and then, working down from there. So,
Could you sell us on, what is like the courthouse in my mind, it sits in Lincoln. Sure, we're in the county, what benefits does it provide us? Like, it provides tourism to mainly Lincoln. Maybe if somebody's on a courthouse tour and we're coming out Pulaski, like what other benefits does it provide to us?
well, as I said, Atlanta is having a meeting tonight, and I had one last night as well, and I was at that one last night. There was, like I said, probably three dozen people there, and I asked them how many, just a show of hands, had been through the Mount Pulaski courthouse, and it was well over 2/3. So, yeah, it's not just Lincoln's courthouse, it's our county's courthouse. So.
Any other comments for Scott?
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments on the agenda items? Committee reports, please.
Yes, I'd like to report that we're still having a lot of problems with soliciting, so if we have anybody coming to your door, asking if they have any permits. Also just, maybe give us a call right away, because there's been times when I didn't know they were in town, and then I get calls that they're in town, and they've already been here for a while, so. We're watching for them as well, but it just helps if you ask, if you have a permit. So, other than that, I think that's all I got, just my basic, stuff going through schools, and I think we had an accident over by the library, but that was due to weather. So.
Anything else for the police committee or for Chief West? Water and sewer?
We discussed the Hair and Sewer, is wanting to install a sewer service into what would be one of our manholes right there by the station, next to where they're at, and, we agreed that it would be okay if they did that, and they will be responsible for the line all the way out to the manhole. Everything's going fairly smoothly. Still waiting on the paperwork we resubmitted for the force main going under the railroad tracks. We set some goals for the year. Talked about the loan repayment, the sewer surcharge. And we're getting some equipment ordered to help exercise some valves around town, get some maps in place and some plans in place for major breakages to minimize water loss and whatnot. And just a couple other little things here and there, and that's about it.
Matt, do you have anything to add?
No.
Still waiting to hear from the railroad on the force main?
Yeah, it's all right.
Did you say that? I'm sorry.
I did not, those words.
Oh. Any questions for water and sewer? Streets and alleys?
We did meet this week and kind of came up with a laundry list of items to take care of. Some of those highlights are, Josh is gonna work on preparing kind of a list of major areas on the streets that need to be replaced or filled, whether it's from like heaving up concrete or potholes and whatnot. That stuff that requires a little more like cutting out highlight some of the bad sections. We're also looking into using and renting Mark Carlin and Chestnut's oil and chip machine that he came over and showed us information on that one day. Willie's gonna try to get a hold of Mark and check into ordering the actual oil. That's something that we can order ourselves and keep for ourselves to use when we need the equipment, instead of buying it through him. And then as far as the seal coating roads, I think Matt's gonna try to get a hold of the county or somebody over there to see about them coming in and possibly seal coating the roads. See, get kind of an idea on pricing and timelines and options as far as that goes. With a goal, we'd like to possibly hit like half of the roads, if the funds are there and everything lines up. Because we do have a pretty large amount of money in the motor fuel tax right now, to be used up. And then, another item brought up was that, with the paying off of the backhoe loan, we want to do some research into possibly looking into a mini excavator to help do some of the jobs around town as far as cleaning out the ditches and culverts, is that correct? And then also, on that list is checking out some of the catch basins that are really bad in town, whether they're busted out or seem to have some kind of mystery sinkhole underneath them. And that type of stuff. That's most of it. Just kind of get an idea of what some of these projects might cost to move forward with, either allocating the funds or see what's possible.
Did you just go to some motor fuel tax training? Is that, what was the training in Effingham, or was that for water?
No, that was for water and sewer.
I called Justin Reese yesterday to mainly ask him about what was going on with the status of the 121 entrance onto the shopping center, and I was gonna talk to him about the motor fuel tax. Do you remember, I know we always turn it in at the end of May, and then it takes them at least a month to get back to us. That's just the maximum deadline. Am I correct in that?
I believe so.
So if we could, between Josh and Streets and Alleys and myself and Justin, try to get him and get Justin here in town to try to look at some of this stuff, he can write up plans. If we can get that motor fuel tax turned in by the beginning or middle of April, you know, that, then maybe by the end of May, it'll be approved instead of the end of June, and that'll just give us one more month. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna do anything until at least May 1 because of the freeze. But, I'd like to have that as a goal if we could, which gives us a month and a half or so to maybe work on that, so. I still have plans, you know, as far as what I'm told, you can put anything into the motor fuel tax resolution, so in any plan you can think of, whether we do it or not, if you put it in there, at least it's in there, and then we can just keep it in, you know, as long as we have the engineering plans for it.
So we're better to allocate that money
Right.
so that it shows everyone using it.
I remember, I still have a map of when we thought there was an idea to do the entrances along 121. I still have that map. I can give you, I'm sure you got a copy of it too. Burns Clancy wrote that up for us. I can get that to you. Might as well include that. I mean, the more we include, the more freedom we have.
You can put as much as you want there, that isn't, you're not obligated to do it.
Absolutely. That's why it should be everything we want to do, you know,
It
if
gives us kind
possible.
of a running list too.
So, something to think about. I'll try to get a hold of Justin. He did call me back. I haven't had a chance to call him back yet. Okay, anything else for Streets and Alleys?
Were you looking at renting a mini or buying or
Purchasing possibly.
purchasing a mini?
Yeah. It's, guys seem to think it'd be very helpful, useful.
Well, it is, in a lot of areas, it's a lot more, shall I say, nimble machine than a backhoe is. You can do twice the amount of work in half the amount of time, so a lot of that work, the faster we do it, the faster we get on to the next project following that, so. I mean, we can obviously rent one just to get us by in the interim, but I think long-term solution is purchase.
Especially if you think it'll help a lot on the ditches. I know there's
Well,
several
and
ditches that
it's
need
not just,
attention.
I mean, I use the ditches and culvert work as prime example, but there's also a lot of other benefits with it, with water repairs, because there's simply some areas where we physically can't put a backhoe, it physically won't fit. So we're renting a piece of equipment or hiring it done either way. So if I have that piece of equipment in my hip pocket, that helps it tremendously.
Anything else for streets and alleys? Finance?
The council didn't refer anything to the finance committee to look into, therefore there was no reason to meet.
Is there any public comments on the non-agenda items? Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda, we will move the resolution from the Logan County sales tax increase under miscellaneous. That seems to be something that needs to have its own agenda item. Because I feel there's some discussion that's going to be had by the council, and then to lump that into the consent agenda would not be fair. Beginning with approval of bills.
Abbott and Associates, $1,690.85. Blue Cross Blue Shield, $4,323.30. Economic Development Resource, $704.80. And IMB, $2,112.12.
Any questions on the claims and accounts?
What about with Adam's home inspection there? We do have Greg Moss's doing that, and we're also paying 2 different people for doing that.
Yes, so Greg is the city building inspector, but he lacks the proper licensings,
Okay, we
Yeah.
talked about that.
and
Okay.
so we have him do it.
That's why we added.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? There is no business district appropriation at this time, so we can remove that from the consent agenda. And moving on to proposed principal loan payments. What's the status with that? We ready to approve this, or is there still discussion?
Kind of here where we're at. I know Tricia wasn't here the last 2 times.
Right, she hasn't been here the last 2 times we've talked about it, but she was part of the planning of this.
Right.
So, do you have anything to add, Tricia? I know there was
No.
that was
No.
kind of someone.
I mean,
that was-
I know that the big stickler was gonna be using water fund to pay sewer and all that. So these were just our ideas to get some of it paid off. I mean, obviously, as the council, you guys can decide, as a whole, to change it however you want. But we do have the money in our accounts at this time, so I think the finance committee felt that, why do we have these loans, why are we paying interest when we have money sitting in the bank? And we all feel comfortable using that money, and, obviously if we're seeing some big catastrophe where we need hundreds of thousands of dollars, but, that there's no reason why we can't pay these off. And make a plan going forward to add, pay some principal on the tower loan and the sewer loans each month, because we usually have anywhere from $7,000 to $11,000 surplus in each of the accounts. That's always depending on, what kind of things come up. Some days, some months it may be more, some it may be less. But I think when we have all this extra, we need to, even if it's a couple $1,000s each month, something, we have this extra to start paying some of these down if we can. Obviously, unless we know there's some big project that we need to start building those funds back up so that we can pay for it without having to borrow, there's that balance. But I think at the same time, we have a little bit of cushion there that we can at least knock part of the principals down on those.
Last time you had mentioned changing out the water, the money from the water to the sewer, take that out of the general fund instead. I would be in favor of that.
That's understandable.
With that change, I'm okay with the rest of it.
So if we, and then we also talked about if we change that, which this, we can go over this. If we move the 52,201 from the general, then the proposed amount of the CD would be moved to 150 out of the general. Is that correct? To that way we can stay at our target balance. You good with that, Tim?
Good.
Okay. We will make those changes. And we will, make that to 150. Sounds like we have good consensus with the changes in place. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Neville. Second Smock. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Emmerich,
Yes.
Maxheimer,
Yes.
Neville,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Brightmeister,
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Motion passes.
While we're fresh on the heels of that, the last time we discussed when we pay off that loan, the surcharge being removed.
It has to be removed at the advice of Jordan. Jordan read the resolution, and we will be removing that.
Would there be any interest in some kind of proposal to add back on the surcharge
I think that there very much would be.
for going forward and keeping that money, keep banking that money for future projects?
One of the things we discussed in the water meeting was instead of having a surcharge, it's like always such a, it's a weird thing to just increase our rates to the amount that we think is necessary. And maybe not do it all at once, but like we could have a tiered rate, because like Matt said, you know, if we evaluate our rates every year, then in 10 years, we don't have to do a large increase, which is more shocking. We learned that lesson 5 years ago.
Well, if we keep it the same, everybody's conditioned for the same rate, so. Otherwise, it's complicated with the staggering or the, prorating across a period of time.
Yes, I agree. How long has it been since we have visited the rates? Probably a couple of years, hasn't it? Oh, no, it's been less than 5 years.
Wasn't it?
We did water
The
5
water is-
years, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and then we did the sewer a year after that, so. I could pull up the files, I think it was 2016, maybe 17.
So it's probably time to address that anyways, and so maybe within the next couple months, if the Water and Sewer Committee, with Matt would like to work on that. I know it's just more to the plate, but
Well, I think.
like I said, couple months.
You know, I think that we sometimes are looking at our rate schedules, we kind of stretch that out just a little long. I mean, we all know that inputs change rather rapidly, and there may be sometimes we look at it, we don't need to change it too.
Right.
But
I lean towards it not being changed because per the financial statements, we're okay, right?
I agree.
We shouldn't make something complicated if we don't have to.
Right.
So,
Let's think about that, maybe get that on the Water and Sewer Committee agenda here in the next couple months to at least revisit it. And if we determine.
You need to
we
decide
determine
which
increases,
committee's gonna be looking at it too,
it'll be the Water and Sewer Committee.
So
And Finance.
To me, however you wanna, or however the council wants to look at it.
So you said per the financial statements, the rate we are at right now is currently sufficient
Yes,
with the $4 surcharge.
with $4 surcharge.
So if we take off the $4 surcharge, will the financial statements reflect the same
We
thing?
won't know until the financial statements come out without the surcharge on it. We could do
You
that.
won't know a final number, but right now, with the rates as they're at, I calculated that we can take out a $3 million loan for the various projects that we got in the near future without having to raise any rates. With the current surcharge. That's why I'm in favor of just leaving it the same. The residents understand what their water bills are. Now, If we skew them with changing the rates and all of that, gonna cause Paul a lot of problems. People are gonna come in here, try and explain all this water rate stuff. To me, I can't think of a valid reason why we should mess around with it, so.
We'll have to remove it when the loan's paid off, so what we will have to do is have to rewrite a new resolution, stating why we are going to remain the surcharge for capital improvements, things of those nature.
Well, what's holding us back from doing that tonight?
We don't have a resolution.
This is my question. What's the difference between raising the rates for what you just said and tacking on the surcharge for what you
We
just
have to remove the surcharge in
said? I get
accordance
it, but I'm
with the.
saying if we put the surcharge right back on, you're gonna have the surcharge
To me,
or a higher rate to compensate for the same thing, correct?
To me,
Yeah.
what you're saying, Danny, we just have to formally remove it, and then we can say we're in compliance, and then turn around, put it right back on, if I'm
Yes,
following.
with the new
I'm saying,
resolution
what's
and
the
the
difference
vote.
between doing that and having to adjust the rate instead of, because you have to explain a surcharge just like you explain adjusting the rate. Somebody's gonna come in and go, what's this surcharge for?
But we're talking about the same surcharge that's been on there for 10 years.
I get it. But then it goes back off, and then it goes back on.
Well, I'm just saying, why don't we just
That
put the
wouldn't change
surcharge?
their bill,
Right.
whereas a rate increase may increase their bill.
It might be more than
Tiered,
$4.
however much you use, that's your.
If there's a dollar difference, people are gonna come in
So
here.
this was, I was just under the,
Yeah, I know
I was under the mindset that whatever the rate increase was going to be was going to essentially directly offset the $4 surcharge.
I would say for 70%.
But it can't do that across the board.
The way the tiered billing is, it'd be very hard to calculate, but it's definitely something we can look into. That is a good point. Like I said, all things to think about. Let's put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Let's put, rates and surcharges and, water and sewer rates and surcharges to everybody think about what we wanna do. Maybe even propose a resolution if you need to re-add the surcharge. Would there be a estimate of when, I mean, are you gonna do this all tomorrow? Or within the next, probably, well,
Well-
you haven't done before the next meeting, absolutely, I guess, I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah, it would just be easier to do it with the bills next cycle.
Okay,
So we don't have to do anything special with Abbott's.
okay,
So we'll get the payoff for the appropriate time after the meeting, so we
okay.
know the payoff
The other,
as of a certain day.
the other part of that equation is looking at the expenses from the water and sewer and talking with Matt. It is strange that the sewer has more expenses than the water does, especially with all the chemicals and stuff, and that caught us both off guard. Also, the sewer is paying more in labor than the water is. Also, so I was thinking if we could have the finance committee look into that and balancing those out, that also would help the situation for the sewer fund.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Moving on to miscellaneous, the proposed ordinance change. Jordan got this over to me today. I'm not a big fan of changing the ordinance after everyone's been given less than 6 hours to talk about it or even read through it. So if you haven't not, I gave it to you 50 minutes ago. So if anyone has anything that stands out to them just as coming through it, please make it known. If not, I see no reason to take any action on this tonight as it was just given to us. And for those on the stream, this is a proposed ordinance change in accordance with the administration to add a position of Deputy Director of Public Works. It will be a creation of a new office.
Do you need a motion to table that, or?
Yes, I would entertain a motion to table, please.
Motion to table the proposed ordinance change.
Motion Neville, second Phillips. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion is tabled. Please add that to the next meeting's agenda. And if anyone has any questions for Jordan as he wrote this, feel free to reach out to him. Okay, as we move the resolution for the Logan County sales tax increase, did everybody see what I passed out? It's got the question on the back. I'll just read it real quick. Whereas the City Council of Mount Pulaski, Illinois has been presented the details of a referendum to be added to the ballot of the general election of Logan County, Illinois, to be held March 17th, 2020. Whereas the City Council has read the question to the proposition to increase local sales tax for the public facility purpose. Therefore, now be it resolved that the City Council is in support of the proposition to increase local sales tax for public facilities purpose. And that is open for discussion on the council. Would entertain a motion if one would like to make one. If I do not receive a motion on a second, then
I'll make a motion to go ahead and put it to a vote.
Just a call to question for a
Well,
straw
like,
vote or
if we don't
approval of
vote
the
on it, it's
resolution?
like always questionable, right? So like, I would just rather vote for it.
Which motion to approve the resolution or?
Sure.
Motion by Neville, is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Maxheimer. Roll call, please.
Alderman Emmerich,
No.
Max Simon,
Yes.
Neville.
No.
Phillips,
No.
Brightmeister,
No.
Smock.
Yes.
Motion fails. Okay. Is there any other miscellaneous business? Any call for executive session? There's nothing further to discuss. We will consider the meeting adjourned.